should be live. Nathaniel, truly. Thanks, Nathaniel. Thanks, guys. I appreciate the support. I do appreciate the positive comments. It's very motivating. So yeah, we should be live. Let me double check that everything is right. YouTube says excellent connection. It says my analytics. Okay, everything's looking wonderful. So I'll minimize that. Yep, and we're live. So hey guys, welcome. And yeah, I just finished the stream with Thunderous One. Guys, on the previous stream, it's in the description and I've pinned it in the comments. Please go to his channel, support his channel, do subscribe, and I will have him back on. It was great having him talk about the 124,000 prophet problem in Islam. Yeah, and Eva, yeah, I couldn't respond to all the comments, but yes, you are now a mod. So, which means you get to work for free. And yeah, so guys, welcome. And okay, today we are going to do part 4. I'm going to be talking about Islamic terminology. Now, quick thing, I did this talk on Friday with Mel of Sneakers Corner, and I covered this section on Islamic deception. I did just a handful of slides just covering some of the discussing their method of debate, which is deceptive, their use of rhetoric, which is for the purposes of deception. Shall I just run through those same slides again just to give you indication, well, just to discuss that again? Would that be useful? So give me a couple of ones in the chat if this would be of use to you. Otherwise, I'll just continue with the terminology. Okay, so yeah, if you want me to, okay, Dragon says 1. Please continue. Nicholas, welcome. Okay, so yeah, I'm getting a few ones. Okay, to repeat that then, just to give you guys a walkthrough so you can understand, I guess I would in the future do a lengthier show, more detailed discussion on the Islamic doctrines and the whole culture of deception. Dobry wieczór, Marek. And dobry wieczór, Eva. Right, so let me switch over to the other screen and we'll take it from there. Okay, you guys have all seen this, the kiswa cloth. Yep. So we've seen this before, so I will just move on from here. Okay. Because people aren't familiar with Islam as a structure, it's important that I do repeat some of these things until they kind of become common knowledge to everyone. The Islam that you know is the Islam dealing with regulations, with law. The spiritual practice of Islam, which is effectively occultism, is in a section called the Haqiqah. What we see as non-Muslims and what lay Muslims see is what's known as the Sharia. That's just regulations, laws, right? So those are the two divisions of Islam, right? The higher division, the Haqiqah here, this is reserved for the higher levels of scholars. These scholars would be the Sufi. Now, they are very bad. Yeah, thank you, you're welcome. Yeah, Sahih Polish. So, now, understand, Muslims will scream hell. I mean, they will scream and shout all day that Sufism is not authentic Islam. Sufism is the highest expression of Islam. The Sufi scholars are the highest level of Islamic scholars because they've mastered the Sharia side of Islam, all the laws and regulations. They must be Sharia compliant. However, they must also comply, and once they've done that, they can now pursue their spiritual, quote-unquote, spiritual, mystical goals. Right? The mystical means something that is not rational. It's not comprehended by the rational mind. It is something comprehended by what they call the pre-rational and post-rational and irrational mind. You can call it myth-making, making stuff up, however you want to. Okay, but it's not necessarily mystical in the sense that a Christian mystic or different culture would interpret that word, right? And esoteric means something that is secret. Something that's esoteric doesn't necessarily mean mystical, right? Now, so the Sharia, in the short version, to really summarize, is just obeying Allah. Just read these rules, follow these rules, shut up. Haqiqah is knowing Allah. This is because the Quran does not have much of a description of Allah's character, right? So if you look at the Bible, it's a description of God's character. God is a person, which is why we say God is a person. Yes, cogito, it is irrational, okay? Nicholas, yeah, he's not. Your knowledge of Polish is limited to a single word not suitable for this chat. Well, okay, great. So let's not have it in the chat then. Sergeant Grinch says his bathroom is more luxurious than the Kaaba. I have no doubt. So, now, knowing Allah is something that the Muslim scholars had especially strive for, because the Quran has no details about who Allah is as a person, what is his character. And so thus the Hakika is partly knowing the character of Allah, but also it is communion with Allah. This means leaving the prison of the earth, passing through the veil, knowing the secret password or whatever it is to get past the first guardians, and then ascending through the 99 levels, the 99 veils, until you enter the throne room of Allah, etc., etc. It's all magical practices, right? So Islam is divided into the outer meaning and the outer practice. The outer meaning would be the first level of meaning, the obvious meaning, the plain reading when you read the Quran. Because Muslims will always tell you that, oh no, it's actually metaphorical. Well, yes, because the way that the scholar sees it is that some things are quote-unquote metaphorical. They have different levels of that, different types. But of course, the plain reading is the one reserved for the lay Muslim, right? The first level, which is the lowest level, the basic level, the baby level. Now, so you have the Zahir, the outer experience, okay, the exoteric, which is called Islam for the masses, right? If you read the scholar, this is a guy called Kushairi, al-Kushairi. He's the guy who specified a lot of this, okay? He's the expert in this, al-Kushairi. He's the one they generally follow. He's the guy who specified this, so he speaks of this, right? Islam for the masses, which is basic Islam, okay? Islam for the plebs. Then you have the Batin, the inner, the esoteric, reserved for the scholars, right? And the higher the level, obviously, the more rarefied the air, the more experienced the scholars you have, the greater their level of separation. So there are these levels, just like in Gnosticism, secret knowledge that's reserved only for the few. And they do say that's quite clear within the Sharia. Okay, so then you have inner, direct, personal knowledge, but that would be subjective knowledge. Now the four levels, Ibara, Ishara, Lataif, Haqa'iq. This would be very much similar to the Lataif level, is very much similar to what you call the Sophia, right? However, Sophia is not necessarily positive, because this also has implications of sophistry, right? Ishara is implied. Now, these are the metaphorical levels. Ibara is the literal level, the Zahir. The Quran and the Hadiths for the regular Muslim is on this level. This is what they receive as the first level of meaning. They do not get the other levels of meaning. Now, don't forget the reality, the truth, the divine essence of the reality of the world, of what the world is made of, right? That's the Haqa'iq. And these scholars, when they finally get to that level, right, they become what's called a Qutb, the most complete man, the perfect man, right? They touch the divine essence of Muhammad, the Ruh Muhammad, the spirit of Muhammad, right? And it's the spirit of Muhammad that transmits divine knowledge to the prophets and to the Sufi saints. Those are subjects I will unpack. I'm busy working at the moment on the Sirah, the Gospels of Muhammad. People love to call them the biographies, but really it's the Gospels of Muhammad. And because this is where Muhammad becomes deified. And yeah, so let's have a look again. So let's cover from A, we came through Adab. Adab means Sunnah, it says here, Sunnah. Okay, so Adab is a habit, a practical norm of conduct, manners, right? Equivalent to Sunnah. Okay, fine and well. Now, of course, rhetoric is regarded as a science in Islam. Okay, it's regarded as a science, the same with metrics. I'm not sure how metrics and rhetoric would be whatever. Now, numerous references to mysticism, to magic, to the occult, to occult practices are found throughout the Encyclopaedia of Islam. Okay, and you will find this constantly when you read through these words, but the issue is that the occult in Islam has never been explored. It's never been discussed, and this is something I'm trying to unpack as well. So over time, as I put this together, people need to realize there's far more to Islam. There's a huge mystical occult side to it that is completely kept secret, right? And we need to expose this. We need to look into this with more depth. Now notice in military science, the plural form of adab is a synonym of hiyal, which is stratagems in war, right? Islam's at war, don't forget. Now, adab al-jadal, this means controversial, okay? Things that are controversial, right? In theology and law, a method of debating in which we discussed questions that were controversial. right? So when Muslims debate with Christians, those are things that are controversial. And it's not a matter of finding truth, but of convincing the opponent. It's a matter of winning, being right, not by being truthful. Okay? Now notice hiyal, let's have a look. Hiyal, artifices, make a note of that word. Stratagems, the means of evading a thing. Tricks. In law, circumventions of the law. So Islam has a process, or has a series of tools, a methodology, a mechanism called hiyal, known as legal trickery, also defined as legal trickery, right? To circumvent the law, to break the law, to legal devices, the use of legal means for extra legal ends. So you're breaking the spirit of the law, if not technically the letter of the law, but it means to circumvent the law, to do things that would otherwise violate what the law is. So basically, in practical terms, you can violate any contract, any oath, any promise, right? Any agreement can be violated by the use of hiyal. And in military science, with synonyms, maqaid and adab is a technical term for stratagems of war. So Islamic debate is a form of war. As Mal said, that famous debate with David Wood and Muhammad Ijab, he used every dirty trick in the book because it's war, right? All is fair in war, right? Now, artifices. Let's continue. Operations of white magic. This word niraj, operations of white magic, creating illusions and feats of sleight of hand, hiyal. So hiyal is trickery, not just legal trickery. Yes, jihad, you're right. Right? So now they speak of amulets which have extraordinary power over men and over natural phenomenon. So there's an element of magic here, and again, another reference to magic and acts done by magicians. Acts done by magicians. Interesting that that's there. Also under hiyal, it's an act of illusion, creating illusions, not truth, illusion. And ilm al-Badi, the science of, okay, the branch of rhetorical science which deals with the beautification of literary style, the artifices of the ornamentation and embellishment of speech. You know, I caught a fish. It was this big. The fish was that big. It's like, right? Yeah, I make $1 million a year. You know, I just bought a Porsche, but I can't show you. You know, because it's still being delivered. Whatever, embellishing things, right? So understand they have a science of embellishment, a science of exaggeration, a science of artifice, which is basically lying. Okay, so they have a science. Now they will call it white magic, Nathaniel. They will constantly, you'll see references to magic, you'll see constant reference to magic, but white magic especially. But man, what they call good, you would call evil. So what they call white magic, you would call black magic. Right, now let's have a look. Artifice. This word means clever tricks intended to deceive. Don't forget, it's legal for the Imam to deceive his own people, right? To deceive the Muslims. Mary Alex, how does one deal with such people? Exactly. You have to, unfortunately, you cannot take them at their word. We don't want to, but we also don't want to be nasty to people, but we don't want to be naive either. Understand? These are people that are trained to lie. Unfortunately, the Sharia explicitly, and I've covered this in other shows, allows them to lie. In fact, obligates them to lie to defend Islam. Artifice, other definitions, right? Clever trick, cunning, crafty devices or expedients used as a trick to deceive others, trickery, guile, false or insincere behavior, right? And now slander, to finish this, slander. Within the West, we view slander as oral defamation, telling a lie about someone which would harm them. For instance, in the West, if I said, oh, this guy's having an affair with his secretary, and it's a lie, that is slander, because it's causing harm, it's causing damage, right? So that is slander. It's a lie, something that's not true. But now, if it's about a Muslim man who is having an affair, and you tell someone, say, hey, that guy's having an affair, and it's true, that's slander in Islam. Why? Because it's a truth he would not want revealed. Understand? In Western law, in Christian morality, in the Western world, slander is to lie about someone. In Islam, it's to tell the truth. It's a prohibition on telling the truth that someone would rather have hidden. Understand? For instance, here's an example of the use of slander. If you notice something good, it is sunnah to mention it. But if you notice something bad, it is unlawful to mention it because this is slander, known as ghibba. So slander is to say something that is true that they would rather not hear. Okay, now the talebearer, namima, the talebearer stirs up enmity. So that's obviously hatred between people or anger between people. A talebearer does this. Now there's basically, this is setting precedent for this. Okay, obey not every wretched swearer or slanderer going about with tales. That's you when you talk about Islam. And the Prophet said, he who stirs up enmity among people by quoting their words will not enter paradise. Right? So Nathaniel says, interestingly, ilm al-Badi means the science of creation, like creating a lie. Yes, related to biddah. Interesting, it's one of the names of Allah. Okay? Badi. It's one of the names of Allah. So Allah is the creator, and when humans create, when Muhammadans create, they create lies. When you apply that. So yeah, ponder that. Mirax, yes, it is wicked. Okay? So when you start, so basically, one of the reasons Muhammad lied was, remember he said you can lie for war, and they're permanently at war, right? Until they conquer the world and cover it with the Sharia. 2, a husband lying to his wife is legal. And 3 was to make amends between people, to smooth over issues between people, right? To smooth over differences. Well, when you debate with a Muslim, that's creating animosity, that's creating anger and friction. So if they want to smooth over things, they're allowed to lie. Muhammad did it, sunnah, right? So you are a slanderer, you are telling tales, okay? You're a blabbermouth if you are saying things that others have accurately said, like when you quote the Quran, quote the Hadith, quote Muhammad's words, etc. Right, let's look at the formal definition. Under holding one's tongue, slander, meaning of slander. Oh, and by the way, they can slander you. There are 6 reasons permitting slander, so they can go ahead and slander you. Right? Slander means to mention anything concerning a person that he would dislike, which is why the penalty for slandering Muhammad is death, as we've covered before. Right? And talebearing, it's quoting someone's words to another in a way that worsens relations between them. Well, when you quote Muhammad's words, you know, he's upset with you and you don't like what you're reading. Talebearing is not limited to that, but rather consists of revealing anything whose disclosure is resented. Good is what is good for Islam, correct, Veronica, as we'll see here. A person should not speak of anything he notices about people besides that which benefits a Muslim. Yes, only what is good for Islam should be spoken. If it negatively affects Islam, even if true, don't say it. Okay? And they speak of revealing something confidential whose disclosure is resented. The Sharia is confidential. It's a secret. It's esoteric. Right? You're not supposed to know it. They are to know it. Right? They forget to add mind reading so you know if... Okay. Now, talebearers, now notice here, when they hear a talebearer, they are to disbelieve it. This is why Muslims don't believe you. They are to disbelieve it. For talebearers are corrupt. I am corrupt. Therefore, according to this definition, Muslims must not believe me, not believe Mal, not believe David Wood, not believe Sam Shamoon, not believe anybody, because talebearers are corrupt and their information unacceptable. Do you understand? This is in the Sharia. This explicitly defines the behavior and it explains why they behave, how they behave. Nathaniel says, so don't tell people the truth. Exactly, it's a prohibition on the truth. You have to hate him for the sake of Allah, and hating someone for the sake of Allah is obligatory, because Allah is detestable. Does this explain? So let me know, does this explain the behavior? Can you see now the connection between the Sharia? Understand, the Quran and the Hadith, you can safely ignore those. You can safely ignore them. Go straight to the Sharia, because the Sharia is the final version of Islam. It is the completed, polished end product. Stop wasting your time on the Quran and the Hadith. Stop reading those. Take a month. Ignore them. Go and look at the other sources. Ignore the tafsir as well. Just ignore those like they don't exist. Read the Sharia. Read the scholarly works. Understand, this is where you will learn Islam. Okay, so let's see. Okay, so that is the end of that. Okay, now we can see within, so let's moving on to, okay, right. Any questions about that? Michael, any questions, anyone? Now, this, of course, I've mentioned before. We say Allah knows best regarding matters, the knowledge of which is unclear to us. This is in the creed, just like Christians have the Nicene Creed and so on, right? Muslims have their creed. This is the Aqid al-Tawiyah, okay? And it says here, they are taught, they're indoctrinated with saying Allah knows best when they don't know. So they don't try to find out, because that would create doubt. They're simply supposed to say Allah knows best and leave it undiscovered, leave it unknown, leave it unquestioned. It's in our culture to question, and we must question. We must ask. So understand, the Bible has been subjected to literary scrutiny and textual scrutiny and all sorts of scientific scrutiny for a long, long time. Okay, because we don't consider that the Bible was written directly by God. It was inspired by God and written by men who were inspired. That's the concept. Whereas the Quran is Allah's literal word. And therefore, to question Allah's literal word, well, they don't do that. That's the red line. Yasir Qadi spoke of the red line. And I intend to go far over that red line and not stop anytime soon. Okay, let's continue. So remember, Ilm al-Badi, artifice. Artifice of ornamentation, okay, and embellishment. Right, let's see where else we got here. Let's move through these terms. And maybe today I should go through some of the words that people have sent me. That's why Islamic world is mentally ill in the Stone Age. Kagito, that would be correct. Islam creates some, yeah. Read the work of a psychologist called Nikolai Senels about Islamic men that he is a psychologist, wrote some interesting papers on that subject. Okay. Okay. So we're now on 171. Here we go. So we've done some of this before. I'll just okay, this is where we ended last time. Bakawafana, again, Sufi terms, referring to the stages of the development of the mystic and the path of Gnosis. Gnosis, Gnostics. Gnosticism was the greatest heresy the church faced. It was the greatest enemy the church faced. Gnostics were a serious problem in the first 4 centuries, a major problem. The creeds, like the Nicene Creed, was specifically written to refute these heresies. We believe in one God, not 3 gods. We believe in one God. That's why it was written that every sentence was specifically written to counter Gnostic arguments and heretical arguments of the day, like from Arius and others. Right? The Father, the Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth. Why? Because the Gnostics believed that a spiritual only God who was not made of matter, who was therefore pure and perfect, would not make dirty matter. Right? And he would not come down to dirty himself with matter and in matter. Right? And they say that a demiurge, who in many Gnostic texts is identified with the god Yahweh, right? With Yahweh, is this demiurge. The demiurge is an evil, spiteful god, a weaker god, in fact, who is lower than humans. On a spiritual level, he's lower than that of humans, and he's trapped. He has trapped our souls because we are of a higher level of being, and we are trapped there, and we need to release the spark within us. The soul within you needs to be released. And that's why the Sufis are doing what they do. Okay? So the demiurge, called Saklas the Fool, is new. Yeah, it's probably a bunch of names and a whole bunch of different Gnostic sects and so on. Yeah, so don't forget, in the Sharia, Islam does state that the world is cursed. Exactly like what the Gnostics believed, that matter was evil. Okay? So understand now, the Sufis. Now people say, look, the Sufis are not proper Muslims. Look, they are stupid Sufis. And the Sharia actually explicitly speaks out against them. Okay, very bad Sufis. But the Sufis must be Sharia compliant before they can be properly considered Sufis and then learn the spiritual side, quote unquote, of Islam. Consider this though. Al-Azhar University is the major Islamic seminary in the world. Al-Azhar is headed by a Sufi. If Sufis are bad Muslims, and Al-Azhar is the greatest Islamic seminary on the planet, why is a Sufi running the place? And why was his predecessor a Sufi? Because his predecessor was also one. And if you go back, how many Sufis would we find running the place? Have a look through how many of the major scholars of Islam are Sufis. Understand? Don't believe the story about the Sufis. The Sufis are the prime elite scholars of Islam. And I shall continue. Okay, nothing there. Let me just zoom into these so I can make these larger. 174, let's go up. Okay, Baligh. So in law, major of full age. Okay, this is someone who is probably over the age of 12, and thus they are able to get married. They can make legal decisions. They can buy a house. They can incur debts. So that would be the case, okay, in law, major of full age. Okay, let's have a look at Baliya. Is there any question or comment? No. Okay, so Baliya, a name given in pre-Islamic times to a camel, more rarely a mare, tethered at the grave of his master, allowed to die of starvation, or sometimes burned alive. That's a very interesting custom from the pre-Islamic Arabs. Muslim tradition sees in this practice proof of the pre-Islamic Arabs' belief in resurrection, because the animal thus sacrificed was thought to serve as a mount for its master at the resurrection. Just thought that was very, very interesting. Just thought I would add that in there. That's a little like, huh? Okay. Right. And okay, Bara. Now this is something very important to note. Now, if you look at the modern scholars, you're looking at a scholar called Fawzan, okay, who is someone to note with regards to this. A scholar called Fawzan. Let me just make this smaller again. Take it down to 360%. So Fawzan is a very, very major scholar within the Islamic world. And Al-Wala al-Bara is a doctrine. Oh, wow. Thank you. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate the donation. Thank you for the contribution. So Al-Wala al-Bara means to love and hate for Allah. It's the doctrine of love and disavowal. Okay? To disavow us, to disavow the unbelievers, and to love Allah. And to love what Allah loves, to hate what Allah hates. Right? Release, exemption, freedom from disease, cure. In law, it is the absence of obligation. They have no obligations to us. They don't have to protect us. They don't have to care about us. Okay? Freedom from obligation. So, as a Quranic term, Bara'an also means the breaking of ties, a disassociation, excommunication. We have been excommunicated from Islam. So we are excommunicated. We are not part of the faith. Right? They always say we have the same God, but in fact, within their legal system, we are not part of the faith. We are considered enemies of Allah. Allah hates us. Exactly, Bruce. What does God say? Love your enemies. Right? Pray for those who persecute you. This is a very different statement. So, Bar'a is you have to hate. The duty to repudiate all those who did not deserve the title of Muslim. Now, of course, there'll be more to this, but Al-Wala al-Bara, I've never done a show on that, never discussed the doctrine, but that is really to hate those. It's loyalty and disavow. Loyalty to the Ummah, excommunicated from Islam, yeah, but of course they have no obligations towards you then, right? So this is not just in relation to Muslims. This is also in relation to non-Muslims. Okay, let's have a look. Baraka. Oh, divine, blessings in practice. Baraka is the meaning of very adequate quantity. So, of course, okay, I'm no expert on this particular issue, but you've got the scales, and every time you say Salam Alaikum to someone, what happens is you're doing a good deed, because in Islam there is no guarantee of salvation. The only guarantee of salvation in Islam is jihad. It's the only way to guarantee that your soul is going to paradise. And of course, when you do this, when you kill and you are killed in jihad for Allah, what happens is, let me just zoom in on this. What happens is that you actually have the right to intercede on behalf of 72 of your family members, right? So you can make sure that their sins are forgiven and they get the guarantee of heaven, right? Of course, in Christianity, this is not at all an issue, right? However, in Islam, it's a major issue. They are not sure. Even Muhammad himself did not know if he was going to go to heaven, at least in the Quran. But of course, we know that they ignore the Quran completely. So when you say, like when you do something correctly, this goes up to heaven as a spark. Okay, sparks going to heaven, exactly. The Gnostic idea, very similar to that. And it goes on the scales on the good side, and of course, you hope to outweigh the bad side, and thus you hope. So you're making points. Everything is about works and about earning points. That's really what it is. Okay. And Casey, you're most welcome. Yeah, that's the okay. That's testimony. Musab Hassan Yusuf, son of Amas. Yeah, interesting guy. That. So Christ shed his blood for all. Muslims shed blood for themselves. Yeah, well, they'll shed your blood. Okay. Let's continue down here. So Badi, creator, one of the names of God, according to Lisan al-Arab, okay, the tongue of the Arabs, which is the oldest set of it's the oldest dictionary within Islam, which is 20 volumes. Okay, Badi is he who creates without imitating a model, and is nearly always used for the creation of living beings in particular. So don't forget that we've looked at the Fath al-Bari. Okay, the Fath al-Bari, which is the book that we have that, this is the Fath al-Bari. This is a segment from the Fath al-Bari, And it says removing weak hadith, as we've discussed before. Okay, Sahih hadith has about a 99 to 100% chance of being entirely accurate. A Hasan hadith has about an 85 to 99% chance of being entirely accurate. A Da'if hadith has about a 45 to 85% chance of being entirely accurate. So the Fath al-Bari is a commentary on the Sahih Bukhari. It's a commentary by Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, scholar, on all of the hadith of Bukhari. This is what scholars read. And they define within this work the accuracy levels of the hadiths. So a Da'if hadith is up to 85% accurate. Even a fabricated hadith has a 45% chance of being accurate. Now this book is a collaboration between two universities, Madinah Munawwara, which is the city where the Prophet died, Prophet Muhammad died. So it is from the theological seminary in Medina itself, and Al-Azhar. So the two greatest Sunni Islamic seminaries in the world got together and are writing this. So this is as good as it gets, right? So the grading it was given may have been wrong, or the fabricator may have spoken the truth. So weak hadith should not be treated like fabricated hadith, because an 85% chance of being entirely accurate is a very high chance. That's in the Fath al-Bari. Okay, so that's found in the Fath al-Bari, which comes from the victory of the Creator. Okay, one of the names of Ba'ala, right? And oh, by the way, Baal, the god Baal, the name of Baal's wife is Ba'ala, by the way. So Allah, Ba'ala, is the name of Seif Baal, and Ba'ala, it's the name of. Ask yourself this question: Why is the Kaaba in Mecca dressed like a woman, dressed in black? Men wear white, women wear black, women wear the hijab, because it's even got the gold braid like a woman would wear. Understand? Ask yourself that question. That's something that really, cogito ergo. Yeah. Seriously, man. This is something I've been looking at for a few years, and I need to collect the evidence. It takes time. Sometimes it takes me a couple of years to connect this, but understand there's something odd going on here, and again, it's not something I want to get into, but ask yourself, why is Kaaba dressed like a woman, not like a man? Okay, the Barzakh. In eschatology, that's the end times, the boundary of the world of human beings, which consists of the heavens, the earth, and nether regions, and its separation from the world of pure spirits. Interestingly, the world of pure spirits is also the Gnostic world. Hi, Tatiana. Welcome. Yeah, so, okay, let me just zoom out a fraction, and let's see what else we have here. Drag this down, see what we have here. Battle. Okay, battle. Known as fasid or radhi. Okay, we should go to those words and have a look. But battle, just so you know, Islam is the deen al-haq, the deen of truth. Haq being the hakika, right? The ultimate reality, the ultimate substrate. The thing that is so true, the thing that is made out of truth, the thing that is made out of the essence of truth, right? The fabric of reality, right? That is Islam. Because Islam is made out of the Ruach Muhammad, the spirit of Muhammad. Whereas Judaism and Christianity are the Deen al-Batil. Al-Batil is one of the names of Satan, right? Al-Batil also is worthless, void. Understand? So Christianity is the vain, void, worthless religion, according to Islamic definitions. Fasid means corrupt. Okay? Fasid means corrupt. The button, the inner meaning, I discussed this earlier, inner meaning of sacred text is contrasted with the literal meaning, the zahir. Right, so understand the Quran has both zahir meanings as well as batin meanings, internal and external, metaphorical, but there's multiple layers, there's like 4 layers of them, as we discussed. Okay. Javed says, Lloyd, will you open copy-paste Islamic law to Barak, Babylon, Hammurabi? Look, it's not only just Hammurabi had some good laws and had some horrible ones, I guess, but not a subject I'm all that familiar with. I did cover that in my discussion on Paul, on my videos on Paul. Not the ones on the Islam versus Paul, but my actual discussion of the Gospels of Paul versus the other Gospels. Pardon me. Okay, let's continue. see if I've missed anything. Okay, let's go down here. I hope you guys have downloaded copies of these and have started to research these yourself, started to read through. There's always something here that's going to be very important. Now, a very important term to note here is bay'ah. Okay? Now, again, all of these verses, all of these terms, all of these things that we're covering here deserve additional research, that all of them merit further research, further examination. Okay? We should dive in deeper. Take your time, do this. Now, bay'ah, notice you can find more in volume 1 of the Encyclopedia, page 1113a, volume 2, page 302b, and volume 6, page 205b. Right? B would be the right-hand side of the column because it's split into 2 columns. Bay'ah, a term denoting in a broad sense the act by which a certain number of persons, acting individually or collectively, recognize the authority of another person. So, what is the shahada? What do you do when you say shahada? Any comments from anyone? So, when you say shahada, you show allegiance. What happens is technically you sign a contract. Okay? You sign a contract with Allah. This is your contract. Remember, yeah, there's a lot of voodoo. Okay, let me go here. Let me go to Quran 9111. So if you go to Quran 9111, Allah hath bought from the believers their lives and their wealth. Okay? They shall fight in the way of Allah. They shall kill and be killed, slay and be slain. So bay'ah is Allah has bought your soul. He has bought your life. When you say the shahada, it is a contract. It's a commercial transaction. Understand, there are implications here of a commercial transaction. Okay? It's a legal transaction. It's not a relationship between you and God. If you become a Christian and you confess, right, every tongue that shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord and so on shall be saved, right? That's a relationship between you and God. The very difference is that when you make bay'ah, it's a commercial transaction. Now the only ways when we think of souls and lives and commercial transactions, it's slavery, which we are slaves of Allah according to Islam, and B, don't forget, commercial transaction, you sell your soul to the devil. That's the only context. Okay, that's the only context where we would think of within our culture, within our religious framework, of selling your soul. So you have signed a contract with the Shahada, and when you break that contract, because you have broken the contract, you must be punished because you've broken a legal contract. You've not walked away from a relationship. You have broken a contract. You've made a promise. You've signed the contract with your soul, with your life, and therefore you forfeit your life. Understand the context that they come at this from. Okay, a Bayt al-Harb, okay, the pledge of war, Bayat al-Harb, the pledge of war. Understand? You're pledging your life, the name of a promise given to the Prophet at the second Aqaba, okay, in 622 by 73 men and 2 women who promised to defend Muhammad if necessary by arms. It was definitely by arms. Actually, let me go to that. Let me go and bring that up, because one thing I hate is how they fudge with these things. When Allah gave the permission to his apostle to fight, the second oath of allegiance at Aqaba contained conditions involving war which were not in the first act of fealty. Now they, Muhammad's followers, bound themselves to war against all and sundry for Allah and his apostle. Actually, let me just zoom in here. I'm going to zoom in and bring this over. Okay, I want you to see this. Okay, so understand, I've mentioned to you before how all of these Islamic texts, they're often whitewashed, they're sanitized. Very often the Islamic scholars who contribute to these are partisan, they are apologists for Islam, and they write things in a way that are preferential towards Islam. Let's just say, now this says here, let's have a look, it says here, the pledge of war, okay, who promised to defend Muhammad if necessary by arms, if they had to. No, it was a pledge of fighting. When Allah gave permission to his apostle to fight, so Muhammad was given at the second pledge of Aqaba, right? What happened was, at the second oath, it contained conditions involving war, which were not in the first act of fealty, of allegiance or loyalty, right? The bay'ah. Now they, Muhammad's followers, bound themselves to war against all and sundry, that's everybody, for Allah and his apostle, while he promised them for faithful service thus the reward of paradise. That's in the Sirat Rasul Allah, page 208. Understand, so they're they are whitewashing, they're toning down the fact that this is a pledge of violence. Right, this is a pledge of violence, so be careful. You've got to double check and triple check, and I mean, I've read quite a lot, so I can cross-reference. But understand, there's a lot of deception within these. It's an oath of allegiance, okay? So it is an oath of allegiance, but understand it's a contract of sale. You've sold your allegiance, right? And that's why they can punish you afterwards, because you've broken a contract. Okay, it's a legal oath that you broke. Bayina, right? Clear, evident. In the Quran, appears as manifest proof. In law, Bayina denotes the proof per excellentium, the excellent proof that is established by oral testimony. Now, understand that's why the isnads, these chains of James said to John, who said to Jill, who said to Johnny, who said to Mark, who said to Matthew, who said to Sally, who said to all of that stuff, that's why they consider that excellent proof, because no proof, because they say that someone said that someone else said that someone else said that someone else said that someone else said. Understand? So there are some issues with that, but in Islam, Ba'ina is the pinnacle of proof. Okay, oral testimony. Okay, and it says applied not only to the fact of giving testimony of law, but also to the witnesses themselves. So these are people, that's why their characters were perfect when they gave the isnad. Understand? So Islam is a very different set of standards to what we have within the West. Hopefully this is making sense to you. Okay? So Imran Khan wants a law where only Muslims can discuss Islam. Exactly, but that is but Sunny Sleep, that is exactly what the Sharia defines, because non-Muslims, I'd have to go into the Sharia to show that. Maybe I should. Let me try and find it. I'm not really prepared because let me bring it up and see if I can find you the necessary rulings. There's about 3 different rulings that is covered by that. So I have to look up the tabaqat. Okay, here we go. Here's the first one. I may not find the rest. I always struggle to find it. I can never remember the right phrase or term. If a Quran is being purchased for someone, it is obligatory that the person be Muslim. Right? The same is true of books of hadith and books containing the words and deeds of the early Muslims. Notice that the books like tafsir and other things are not the Quran, they're not the hadith, but they contain the words and deeds of the early Muslims. Quran in context means any work that contains some of the Quran, even a slight amount. This ruling holds for any religious books, even the tabaqat of Shar'ani. So understand, okay, so this tabaqat is a set of biographical sketches. Oopsie. Don't know what I've just done there. Okay, I've made a wrong mistake here. Somehow I've split the screen. Let me just... bugger. I've split the screen somehow. Okay, so this is a set of biographical sketches of Muslims. So understand, we are not allowed to read, we're not allowed to possess, we're not allowed to know anything regarding Islam. Let me just close that and hope that okay, great. So understand, we as non-Muslims are not allowed to know anything about Islam or possess any Islamic literature. It's illegal for us. Now, they can't stop it. Unfortunately, this is a problem for them. Okay, Nicholas Paulson said, it turns out General Akbar was correct after all. It's a trap. Yeah, why would his name Akbar? Like, what the hell? Okay. Imran Khan smoking too much hash. Yeah, sure. No Muslim will debate you with this information. They would plan your demise. Gabriel, yes, that, unfortunately, that is something that we're all well aware of. The difference is that I'm not just trained as an academic, and people have tried to arrange my demise. Let's just leave it at that. And, yeah, so I'm not, my name's not John Q. Academic. So, Gabriel, this changes the game. In what sense does it change the game? I'd be very interested to know more. So have I missed any comments? Okay, so understand that, okay, let me move on a little bit, and then I want to go through some of the words that people have sent me over the last few months that I want to answer some questions. Oh, Bazr, in anatomy, the clitoris. Now, unfortunately, Muslims always tell you that, the circumcision is obligatory. And when you read, for instance, the Reliance, it says that they're to remove the prepuce of the clitoris, not the clitoris itself. But unfortunately, that's not true, because Bazr is the full clitoris. Okay? In fact, a woman who has a clitoris, right, an uncircumcised woman, to say that you're the son of an uncircumcised woman is considered an insult. So clitorectomies, pardon me, it's actually the whole genital mutilation. This is a fact in Islam. It is a fact. Ever, you must go to the world with this knowledge. Well, you see this face here? It's on YouTube right now, talking to the world. I'm hoping the world will listen. Um, yeah. So okay. So understand the whole clitorectomy thing. It's the buzzer in anatomy, of the clitoris. They will try to say it's the prepuce of the clitoris. In fact, let me go back to Reliance and hope I didn't mess that up. Uh, And look, and guys, thank you. Several of you have donated recently. It's contributed. It means a lot. I appreciate it. It means I can pay for software. It means I can do things like this, Adobe Acrobat. Man, I couldn't work without Adobe Acrobat. So yeah, all of that, it goes a long way. I do appreciate it. Those Some of you have been very generous, and I really really appreciate it. It makes a difference. I can buy software. I can pay for things. It's fantastic. I can buy books. It really does help, and you'd be amazed how many hours I spend on this. You'd be very surprised to know it's tons and tons of time goes in. And thank you. Yeah. So actually, let me go look up the word clitoris here. Let me find it. Okay. So notice it says here removing the prepuce, the buzzer of the clitoris, not the clitoris itself, as some mistakenly assert. So circumcision is obligatory. Now, within the Jewish law, circumcision was obligatory upon men. In Islam, they've mistaken this and made it obligatory for both. Now, don't believe that the reliance of the traveler will lie to you. Okay, the scholar will lie to you. The translator, the guy who translated this, does make some boo boos here, and I don't think they're accidental. Okay, so you can see there's a contradiction between these two. Now, either the encyclopedia is wrong, or this is wrong, and I can tell you in certain cases they're both wrong. Right? Gabriel Schoner says, or Schoner, Muslim apologists won't be able to debate against this. I think they will up the ante and intensify the Islamophobia tactics. Okay, Islamophobia. Now that's an interesting word. Islamophobia is made up of there are two sets of there are two things. I've mentioned already namima and I've mentioned ghibba. Right? I've shown you the whole idea which I went through in the beginning. So Islamophobia, to accuse someone of saying these things, it's based on those concepts I showed you earlier in the very beginning. Namima and ghibba, tale-bearing and slander. You are doing slander. That's what Islamophobia is. And don't forget, Islamic law applies to you. They have to apply it against you as well. It's lawfare, right? So therefore, that's what Islamophobia is. It's the application of the laws of ghibba, slander, and tale-bearing, namima, right? Where they would resent what you are saying, right? Because don't forget, when you say accurately, when you repeat the words that have been spoken, but it creates stress, creates friction, that is not lawful. And that is what Islamophobia is. Okay? Beheadophobia, yeah, exactly. Well, look, as I said, in a past life, I've been some fun places, done some fun things, and dealt with some fun people. So let's leave it at that. And yeah, I mean, I thought Islam. Besides, why would we worry? Islam's a religion of peace, right? Okay, Begum. Do you guys remember there's a woman called Begum who went to join ISIS and wants to come back? She claims, "I'm sorry, I made a wrong mistake. Please let me back into Britain." Shamima Begum, remember her? Okay, Begum, feminine of Beg, an honorific title of the royal princess. Her name means princess, royal princess, Princess Shamima Begum. Okay, let's move on from here. I'll spend the last few minutes going through some of you guys' own words that you've sent me in the past. So I'll try and do a handful of those. Now, look, I will come back to some words in the future because I keep finding new words. I read through this. I actually spend time and I read through this during the week, right? Okay, bidda. So in A, I found some new terms and things that we should go back to at some point. Bidda, innovation, a belief or practice for which there's no precedent in the time of the Prophet. So bidda is innovation. Okay, it's a crime. Now, unfortunately, if you do bidda, it doesn't mean you become a non-Muslim because you see, you cannot just pronounce takfir or excommunicate someone willy-nilly. That's not done by a lay Muslim. They can shout all they like, but it doesn't matter. It's done by obviously this has to come from a scholar of authority. But innovation doesn't mean you're not a Muslim because, you see, to be a Muslim, you still have to believe in Muhammad, say the Shahada, believe in Allah and the last day, right? So basically you declare your belief in Muhammad, Allah, as the prophet of Muhammad, Allah as the prophet of Muhammad, sorry, and, right, and the last day. So when you've done that, no matter what you do, there is no sin that you can commit besides basically shirk that would disqualify you from being a Muslim, right? So therefore innovation, doing something that's not sanctioned from precedent, doesn't make you a non-Muslim. It simply means that you've done bidda. Okay, Let's see. So let me do one or two more. Let's see what's down here. Here we go. Another one. Anything that I've got in this purplish color, this purplish bluish color, all of those relate to magic, the occult, in Islam. Okay. So Budu, an artificial talismanic word formed from the elements of the simple threefold magic square. The uses of the word are the most various to invoke both good and bad fortune. So, okay, so I love the way they phrase these threefold magic square. Let's have a look at the Islamic magic square. And my typing is terrible. I spell really well, but I type incredibly badly. These are threefold magic squares, okay? But these are, okay, so this, okay, that's not the one I wanted. Oh, great. You know, I'm gonna magic squares. Here we go. These are the that's an even better one here. The magic square here. This is a kind of magic square. Now within Islam, this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, this is seven-sided. A three-sided would be three on a side. Okay, so Islam has extensive. Here's another one. Here's an example of a threefold magic square. Now, in some cases, what they'll do is they'll deliberately make mistakes within the text to mislead the casual reader. Okay, that does happen. Understand? So these are magic squares within Islam. So these are used to for divination and also to control the spirits. So you want to direct a spirit to do something for you. So they're very, very mild about how they explain this, but you can conjure up an angel, conjure up a demon, conjure up a spirit, and tell it to do something for you. A tour of the internet. That was that was me just taking time out to embarrass myself in public for a minute, Sergeant Grinch. Okay, so now let me go through some of the terms that I've been given. Okay, was that useful? Have you guys learned anything? Oh, good grief! See, now I'm doing it again. I'm embarrassing myself in public once more. Yeah, I was working on. Good grief! I hate when I do that. Opens on my second screen. Okay, let me go back here. I want to show you guys some stuff related to terminology. Just for those who know, I was busy working on some new syllabus stuff because I have students and I got to work on some new stuff. Um, Islamic terms. Okay, here we go. Okay, so I'm going to bring this up. So, guys, I've been given a few terms that I've been asked to examine. Okay, and that people have given me. Like one is fitna, right? So, where the politicians getting money from? Oil. What's this book, the Encyclopedia of Islamic Terminology? This is called the Encyclopedia, lost and found. It's called the Encyclopedia of Islam. Check in the description box. You'll find, well, this is volume 13, which is the index. Okay, Sudoku. Nicholas, yes, it is Sudoku, but basically it's Sudoku, but they use it as a form of magic, and right. So let's see. Wait, Nicholas, in Sweden, ISIS travelers, they call it, the mainstream media don't even have to beg to return. That's horrible, man. It's horrible. Okay, fitna. Let's have a look and see if we can find fitna within the Encyclopedia of Islam. Okay, so let's have a look. Fitna means temptation. Okay, it's temptation away from the true religion, Islam, right? So it doesn't mean, so remember, don't forget, fitna is worse than murder, rebellion. So here's another definition of fitna, rebellion. It's rebellion against God. You are, in fact, as a non-Muslim, you are committing rebellion. Cryptography, Dodzer, you are correct. There is also an element. In fact, sifra, okay, the term cipher comes from the Arabic word sifra, if I recall, and that's a related term within this. So yes, cipher cryptography, it's certainly part of cryptography and hiding things. Okay, so I'm just doing a search. It means yes, correct, but sifra, I've looked at it recently, and but that's where we get the term cipher from. Okay, to hide and conceal. Let's see, they don't have fitna. Okay, so they would have rebellion. Yeah, it's not going to find it. Okay, fascinating. So let's look at rebellion. 8 references to rebellion. So rebellion is fitna. Interesting that they leave it out, rebellion. Okay, that's interesting. Let's go back here. Other. Those who sit down, okay, who abstain from overt rebellion. Okay, maybe not that important. a mulhid, a deviator, an apostate, a heretic, an atheist, a mulhid. There is no evidence, blah blah, okay, under the Umayyad, so splitter of the ranks of the faithful, a rebel, denoting the desertion of the community of the faithful and rebellion against legitimate caliphs. So you're rebelling against legal authority, and let's see if there's anything else. Fitna doesn't show up here. Okay, so fitna, let's go into Reliance of the Traveler and see if we can find fitna here. Fitna, see temptation. Okay, interesting. So fitna falls under, within the Sharia, falls under temptation. Okay, let's see. Temptation, fitna, in dealing with the opposite sex, see also men, women. Okay, so let's go up to temptation. Don't forget, temptation is worse than murder. So it's really just fitna, it's just temptation, temptation away from Islam. And temptation is worse than murder. So it's good for them to kill you because you can be forgiven for that because you're doing it righteously because someone is looking to tempt a human away from Islam. And that is a grave, grave sin, which is even worse than you killing them for that heinous act of offering them temptation away from Islam. So that's what they mean within the culture. And I've only got three more references. No, it's not. Yeah, so it's very, very vague. Okay, so that's it for fitna. They've left it out. I would probably have to go into the encyclopedia themselves. So sometimes the index doesn't contain information. Also remember, not every Islamic Sharia manual covers everything. You have to go to different manuals for different things sometimes. The Reliance is good because it covers a little bit of everything, but doesn't necessarily go into detail on anything. Some comments. Does the Quran say no one can be misled without the will of Allah? So why do Muslims have to intervene? They're the regions. The Quran doesn't make sense. It stopped making sense a long time ago, right? So yeah, Muslims have to intervene because it's righteous. It's part of the doctrine of what's called commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. Okay, that I can show you. So that is part of the doctrine of commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. Because they are the regents of Allah on earth, okay? Because Allah obviously cannot come to earth, and they are the ones who inherit the authority to act on His behalf, because He cannot act on His own, and this is the only way, through righteous action, this is the only way they can earn heaven, right? You saw that the barakah, everything, all those little sparks, these little blessings that go up to heaven and weigh the scales down in their favor. Now, there are two major ways. There are two ways of, well, jihad falls under the doctrine of commanding the right and forbidding the wrong. Okay, jihad falls under that. That's just one of the expressions of how to command the right. And this means to enforce the Sharia and forbid violations of the Sharia. This is the things that Muslims must do. So that's page 713. So let me go to 720 and see where we come up here. While I'm here, I want to show you guys this. This is very important. You need to understand the context of Muhammad within Islam, right? And for those who are new, especially who haven't not seen this before, this is within the Sharia law. Now remember, the Sharia, Islamic sacred law, is the final version of Islam. It is the final polished product after hundreds of years of development. The Quran and the Hadith are just the nascent form, the beginning, the baby, the birth form of Islam. But its final product is the Sharia. And this is where Islam is agreed upon and understood by the scholars. And it tells us that, and they've plagiarized this from the Gospels, let's see if you can guess who, not loving the Prophet more than all people. Okay? None of you believes until I am more beloved to him than his wife, child, his life, and all people. When they say self here, they're being nice. They mean your life. If you love your life more than you love Muhammad, you don't really believe. You must be willing to sacrifice your life for Muhammad in jihad. So you must love Muhammad more than you love your wife. Now, are Jews required to love Moses more than they love their wife, their child, their own life, their possessions, their mother, their father, their country, their people? No. Moses is just a prophet. Muhammad is, I thought he was just a prophet, but no one comes to the Father. No one comes to Allah, okay, unless they love Muhammad with all their heart and all their soul and all their strength. Do you understand? This is the position of Muhammad within Islam. You do not believe, you're not a Muslim, until you love Muhammad more than anything in the world, including your own life. Let me see here. Quran says Allah will lead. Okay, the Muslims always boasting they falsely bloated numbers of Muslims. Well, I mean, is there really a true Muslim? Is there actually such a thing as a true Muslim? Before I get into, okay, hold on, I'm just deviating again. So let me go. Um, let me just go over here. Islam game. Okay, skip that. Okay, let me skip that. Let me go in here. So the love of the Prophet means the will to obey him and not disobey him. This is one of the obligations of Islam. So you have to love Muhammad more than anything in your life. Nothing else can be more important than Muhammad. So this is putting him on the same pedestal as Jesus. Right? This is making him. Moses was a true prophet, never put his own. Yeah, well, exactly. So understand, this is how important Muhammad is within the scheme of things. And let me go back to some other words and terms that were used by everyone. So let me go back here and I'll just look at it from here. Are there any words you'd like me to look up? Is there any word anyone? I'll take a few minutes. Is there any word anyone would like me to look up? I've got zakat, jizya, nikah, mutta, zina, shirk, exorcism, ruqya, dhimmis, caliphate, fatwa. Many of these are fairly obvious. Any words you guys would like me to look at? High historical Christianity. So, any words you'd like me to look up? Anything you'd like me to examine that you think would be worth taking a look at? Oh man, that's a nasty thing to say. That's a nasty thing to say, Nicholas. Okay, where were we by Ina? Let's go down here to the next one. Okay, Bidda we've done already. Oh, the magic square thing we've done. Okay, right, so let me see. Gabriel says, seems to me that they have to lie to themselves and hide any thoughts or feelings of doubt. Doubt is illegal in Islam. Doubt's illegal. Okay. Actually, let me finish this and I'll take your point about doubt. That's actually very important. I will show you that. I need to show you this. I have showed it to everyone before, but I need to run through some of these over and over till you get it, till you understand it. Okay, so let's have a look at this term, this final term, burhan. Now they've got another level of decisiveness. Burhan, a decisive proof, a clear demonstration. This is a clear demonstration of evidence, right? An unambiguous demonstration of evidence. It's a Quranic term signifying a brilliant manifestation, a shining light from Allah. In correlation, Burhan is also the decisive proof which the infidels, that's you, are called upon to furnish as justification for their false beliefs. Those are your beliefs. In law, Burhan refers to the quality of certainty based on an argument of authority. Notice Islam relies on argument from authority. It's part of their creed. It's part of their culture. It's their legal system. Okay? It's embedded in the legal system. Hikmah, we'll have a look at that. Yeah. Right? Based on an argument of authority. So understand, Islam is all authority driven because the average Muslim has no authority. He has to rely on the scholars. He follows them. Okay? That's called taqlid, which can either be a scriptural text or the eyewitnessing of an obvious fact. Okay, so which is proper to reasoning. Now here's an odd thing: the eyewitnessing of an obvious fact. So in other words, you've been an eyewitness, right? Now in Western terms, when you say eyewitness, we mean we've seen that. Well, so these Sahih Hadith, how must Muslims believe a Sahih Hadith, especially ones that they deem are mutawatir? Okay, and don't forget the Quran is mutawatir. Okay, it's the ultimate in mutawatir. Okay, well, the mutawatir hadith is one that a Muslim must believe as if he was an eyewitness. Was he an eyewitness? No. Do they care? No. Must he believe it as if he was an eyewitness? Yes. Is it thus evidence even if he hasn't seen it? Of course. Was he an eyewitness when he wasn't there? Of course he was. Does this make any sense? No. Do they believe it? Sure they do. Understand? So they're playing word games here, and you need to understand the structure of how they think, how their whole society is structured on these laws. And these laws contradict each other, and they have outs for everything. If law 1 says it's like this, then law 2 says, well, unless, and then they can have an out, and they can do something completely contradictory, which is allowed. Okay? And also, which is proper to reasoning in two terms in order to prove the radical distinction between the identity of two comparable things. Okay? But understand, They're saying that we have nothing burhan. We have no decisive evidence. And we cannot produce any decisive evidence to justify our false beliefs. All right. Okay, so now I had the question to look at hikmah. Let's look at hikmah, and then I need to look at doubt. So those are the last two things I'll do. The hikmah means the wisdom. The wisdom is another code word for the gnosis, right? Because Islam is Gnostic. I've showed that over and over. So the hikmah is the gnosis, the wisdom. Now, so apparently within Islam there was the gnosis within the Quran. There's the gnosis, but let's have a look. The house of the hikmah, the house of wisdom, a term used by Arab authors to denote in general sense the academies which, before Islamic times, spread knowledge of the Greek sciences. Okay, that's all nice and well, but that changed. Okay, let's have a look. Continue to look. The hikmah, wisdom, science, and philosophy. Okay, so look at the Dar al-Hikmah. In the Quran, hikmah is used in several Medinan passages for the revelational part of it. But hikmah effectively means oral revelation, philosophical revelation. Okay. There's even werewolf in that PDF? Oh, there is? Okay. So, hikmah is gnosis. Really, just think of it as gnosis. Okay. Yeah, was there werewolf? Let's have a look. Werewolf, Kutrub. Let's have a look. Kutrub, Syriac, the werewolf, the male of the Silat, considered thus by those sources, do not consider the Silat of the female of Hu, a fabulous being. Look, in Islam, the stars are creatures with souls, okay, in Islam. So we were talking about doubt. So, yeah. Yeah, I know I'm probably going at like a mile a minute here, but let's continue. Here we go. Okay. So, on that question of, awesome, well spotted. Okay, so someone asked me the question about doubt. Doubt must be eradicated from your mind in Islam. It's your duty to eradicate doubt. It's your duty to make sure that you never have doubt. Okay? Because you have to believe the scholars implicitly without any doubt whatsoever. Now, unfortunately, within Islam, you have to believe without information. Okay? You're expected to believe without knowledge. And I'll explain this and I'll show it as we go. So the personally obligatory knowledge. This falls under aspects of you have an obligation to follow the scholars. Okay? Now it says here's a hadith that is weak. It's actually a weak hadith that is being cited by the Sharia. Okay? Oh crap. This is a weak hadith being cited by the Sharia, oddly enough. Okay? The Islamic law itself. Seeking knowledge is an obligation upon every Muslim. It's a weak hadith. But the meaning of this hadith, though the hadith itself is not well authenticated, being weak, it is true. Now it says here, in section A 4.2, Reliance of the Traveller, the basic obligation of Islam, okay, and what relates to tenets of faith, is to believe in everything brought by the messenger, with absolute conviction, free of any doubt. They are to believe everything. And who transmits this to them? Their scholars, their imams. They have to have no doubt. And whoever does this is not obliged to learn the evidences. In other words, you're not obliged to learn evidence. You're not necessarily that you need to ask for evidence. We just discussed lack of information, right? The previous show especially. You don't have to ask for information because Muhammad himself did not require of anyone but what we have just mentioned. Muhammad required people to believe his word without question, without knowing why. It's a cult, Kagita, Gabriel Schöner, yeah, crazy. Okay? What was the question? So, Javit, hikmah terminology, Muslim in practice for taqiyya. Hikmah is gnosis. I mean, by the definition, the gnosis is mythological knowledge. It's not, it's entirely subjective, it's false. Okay? So, understand, you are expected to believe without doubt, without even having knowledge. Now it states here, now notice there's something very important here you need to note, okay? You're not obliged to learn the evidences of the scholastic theologians, okay? Evidences of the scholastic theologian, that's an important term to note. Scholastic theologians. Now, rather, what befits the common people, that's the average pleb, right? That's Abdul in the comment section who doesn't know what's going on. What befits the common people, okay, and the vast majority of those learning or possessing sacred knowledge. Now that's even the level of imams who are learning some of the Sharia, okay, but they're still too low a level, okay, is to refrain, so do not discuss the subtleties of the scholastic theology. That's the kalam, right? Kalam is basically the theology of Islam. Because remember, I said there are two divisions, as I showed you. There's the Sharia, following the laws, the rules. Do this, do what you're told, follow the rules, follow the law, shut up. And then there's the spiritual aspect, the occult aspect, the mystical aspect, the esoteric. That is what they refer to when they say scholastic theology. When you try to explain the attributes of God, that's all part of scholastic theology. So they're saying it, don't discuss it, don't talk about it, just we tell you what you need to think, and you think it, and don't ask questions. Because if you do, corruption, which is difficult to eliminate, will find its way into your basic religious convictions. Fitna. Okay? Fitna, difficult to eliminate, will find its way into your basic religious convictions. You'll be tempted away from the Islamic truth. It is fitter for you to confine yourself to contentment with the above-mentioned absolute certainty. Don't ask questions, just believe, don't ask why. I'll end it here, but this is what they mean. So Alika says, yep, cult, why wouldn't they like questioning? Aren't they happy to affirm what you believe with the right? They don't have answers because Allah knows best. Okay, don't forget. Allah knows best. When we go here, okay, we hate the people of injustice in their creed, in the Islamic creed, right? They say when our knowledge about something is unclear, we say Allah knows best, because they don't have answers. Understand? They don't have answers. Yes, Kagito, thinking is haram. Nathaniel, he says, shut up and be happy. It's exactly that. Shut up and be happy. Okay? So when our knowledge about something is unclear, we say Allah knows best. It's repeated in multiple locations. In the Aqidah al-Tahawiyah, when our knowledge about something is unclear, we say Allah knows best. In other words, the scholars can't give them an answer. There is no answer. There's no good answer whatsoever. And thus they've had to say, well, no evidence, just believe it. They'd made standards to cover lies with yes, exactly. I mean, so you can see it in multiple sources. We say Allah knows best regarding the knowledge of which is unclear to us, because they don't know. They absolutely don't know. And they have to say this. Okay, so yeah, I'll end off here. Any last questions? Quran 434. Yeah. Well, any questions? Any comments before I go? I'll call it a night soon because I. By the way, next week, Friday, I'm leaving. Arnold Nathaniel, thank you, Lloyd. Learned so much again tonight. You're welcome. I hope. Yeah. Hopefully you guys will be able to use this, and hopefully you're starting to understand the Islamic mind. You're understanding the culture, the structure of their civilization. Yeah, guys, I wonder if I should tell you where I'm going, so in case there's anyone in that part of the country. But then again, I don't necessarily want to give away my movements because, like you say, I'm not desperate to have to run into people that might not like what I do on YouTube. So, okay. Oh, nothing and be happy. Shut up and be happy. You know, Amima Bastard, that is actually a very strong observation. Is the Great Reset a way to make us Muslims unwittingly? Look, if you look at wokeism, there's a very strong correlation with the Islamic legalities that I pointed out today. There actually is a connection, right? The belief without evidence, right? This man. Whenever I look into it, I should actually write it down one day and show you the connections and correlations. It's crazy. But there's definitely seems to be an Islamic sort of, you can explain it in Islamic terms, in Islamic legal terms, yeah. So, oh, nothing and be happy, shut up and be happy. Yeah, look, I mean, Islam is, yeah, well, we need to look at the, guys, awesome live stream as always. Now we need to make plan to put all this knowledge to work. Yeah, I spread it on, talk to people, but use it against Muslims in the chat sections, Facebook, YouTube. Make them admit the Sharia, show them the Sharia. Now, here's the thing. Oh, on that, the scholastic theology. So for 2 years, I've been trying to figure out, do Muslims know the Sharia or do they not? Right? Are they ignorant or are they just playing stupid? Are they playing dumb? The answer that I've come to thus far, is that they know it. They know the laws. The Hakika side of it, at least. Not the scholastic theology, because they're not allowed to question that. That's the domain of the higher scholars, right, in the 3rd and 4th levels. But they know the Sharia. They are actually taught it. In fact, they're required. You saw there that knowledge is something which is obligatory upon them. They should seek it out. They mean this kind of knowledge, the regulations of the Sharia. So my finding is that they do know. They're aware of this. They just can't tell us about it. As you saw in the one rule, we're not allowed to possess Islamic books. Okay? But there are other rulings. They're not allowed to reveal the secrets. Sharia is a secret. It's esoteric. Okay? Sharia is a secret. Not from them, from you. Okay, they're not allowed to reveal it to you. You are not allowed to know it because that will lead to friction. Remember, they must lie to keep the peace, right? So understand that they know this, they know these laws. Maybe not explicitly, maybe not every one, but it's part of the cultural fabric already. It's part of the air they breathe. So they know it, and they just can't tell you. So I think that they know. And so start quoting it. Let the rest of the world know. Let the people who are reading the comments see that you're quoting the Sharia, and ask them, prove me wrong. Show me from another Sharia manual where it says different, because it doesn't. They all say the same thing. They're all equally violent. They're all equally vile and disgusting. And because the Hadith and the Quran, they can go in circles. They can spin in circles whole day. The Sharia is a hard backstop. There's nowhere to go. The Sharia is black and white. It's ugly and filthy and dirty. It reveals Islam in full. Strips it naked and bare and exposes it. So they do know. Oddly enough, if you watch Ibn Fibn, who lies through his teeth, but about the Sharia itself, but he will actually make it clear. So I've actually learned a few things from him, but he makes it clear that they are to study the Sharia. Muslims are expected to get the books and study them at home, to know the law, to apply the law, to follow the law, right? So they do know, they are aware of it, and they're just lying about it. They're just playing dumb. Let me go through the last comments. In Christian academic to wisdom, not the same with Muslim. No, it's not. It's they define the words differently. They define words like rhetoric differently. They define all these things. Let me see if I missed anything. They know it, but they're supposed to know that the scholastic theology they're not allowed to go into. That's the theology of the Kalam, but not all the rest. They have to do something that they spend in. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. The Nicholas, they do know it. They just play dumb with us. So let the world know. Besides, if the Sharia was perfect, the perfect, beautiful law of Allah, why are they embarrassed about it? Why do they hide it? Let's make it public. Let the world know just how disgusting this thing is. Yes, it is, Kagito. Sadly, it is. Okay, guys. I will end here. Every mouth from Islam, making confused conflict. Yeah. How can get the knowledge of the shit to other apologists? That would benefit. Man, go pester his comment section, right? Pester their comment sections. Just pester their comment section, tell them to talk to me, whatever the case might be. But start using it in the comments. Quotes from these things, right? Say, look, show me an official, authoritative, relied upon source that says different. Okay, these are the major sources. These are the main sources. So that's it. But yeah, so put it out there, show people, and ask them to show you from the Sharia. Accept nothing other than the Sharia. Tell them, I want the fiqh. Okay, I want the fiqh. I want your main sources. I don't want opinion. I want the fiqh. Tell them that. Excellent stuff, guys. So thank you very much. Again, I appreciate all the support that's coming over the last few weeks. I much appreciate it. It's been very helpful. Always helpful. And I'm working on some other interesting stuff on the Injil, the New Testament, from an Arabic perspective, not the Syriac and all that. But I'm looking at that, trying to piece together just what the heck that is. And I've got some work on that's coming out shortly. And then I'm putting together all the sources, all of the myths, the stories of the Quran. I mean, even the opening chapter, the Fatiha and all that. All of these things are from foreign sources. So guys, I hope that was interesting and educational. I need to stop talking. My throat is sore. And guys, so we shall see you next time. So look, from the 8th to the 14th, I'll try and be online once at least this week prior to me leaving. But on Friday, I leave. I come back on the 8th, so the 17th. So I will see you guys after that, because I'm only getting home around 8 and 9 p.m. or something on the 17th. So I'll see you guys in like a while. Okay, you take care. Stay safe. God bless, and we'll see you guys. All right, take care. Bye.